Greetings and salutations, travelers of the internet, and welcome to the Lit Round Table. I'm Joseph.
And I'm Anna. We'll be your wise or not so wise mentors for today's audio adventure into all things storytelling.
Welcome to episode 10.
Woohoo!
Here
I feel
we
like
are.
a woohoo every episode.
You do. It's okay.
I don't mean to. It just happens.
It's just a thing now. Woo!
10 episodes already.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cool.
It's very fun.
Yeah. So today, we're going to talk about what we're reading, The Lies of Locke, Lamora, and then we're going to talk about character death.
Character death. That's going to be an interesting one.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. It should be fun. Fun.
Well,
maybe isn't the right word.
It'll be interesting. It'll be
yes.
an interesting discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We'll go with that.
Yeah. So before we get into that, what are you reading right now?
Well, reading and watching and all things in between.
Yes. Give us an update on your story life.
So, a couple of developments have happened. For reading, it's pretty much the same. Lies of Locke, Lamora, The Great Hunt. I did actually make some more progress in The Great Hunt, which I hadn't done in a while, which feels good. And for what I've been playing for games, I finally finished Ghost of Tsushima.
Congratulations.
Which there's something about that I'm looking forward to talking about in character deaths.
Oh.
Well, kind of. Yeah, it counts. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Well,
I haven't played it, so I have no idea what you're talking about, but
yeah.
I'm curious to hear more.
Well, are you planning on playing it?
No.
Okay, then the spoilers won't matter for you.
Okay.
But if you've played the game, sorry in advance, I will probably be spoiling some things. So, if you haven't played it and you want to, close your ears for that part. But we'll get to that. So I finally finished Ghost of Tsushima. That was very fun, very well done by Sucker Punch Studios. They're the same studio that made the Sly Cooper games back in the day.
Oh, I love those games.
In the game, I found a headband that you can wear that has the Sly Cooper thing on it, like the cane.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was very cool. When I found that, I was very excited. But
I'd forgotten about those games.
So that was very cool. Finished that. Also, for what I've been watching, I have been keeping up with The Bad Batch, which has been very fun. I've still been watching Critical Role, which now I'm on like episode 89 or something.
Holy
so
smokes.
like I'm getting there.
It's been a couple weeks since we last recorded, just for people that are like paying attention to the last episode number you mentioned.
I think that's right.
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I believe you.
Well, I can... Because you say that and I'm like, oh no, people are going to actually keep track? Oh no.
Well, I don't know that they're going to keep track, but if they just listened to last week's episode and it was...
It is episode... Oh, okay. I'm on episode 88.
Oh.
I was close.
So worse than you thought.
But it's okay.
Or better.
I'm approaching 90.
Yeah.
So, I'm making good progress.
You are.
So, that's been really fun. Also, I watched the latest, and I think is going to be the last season of Castlevania on Netflix, which just came out like a week ago or something.
Okay.
Season 4, which that show is very good. It is very violent.
Okay.
There's a lot of violence and there's some language, so probably don't watch it with your kids. But
it's in an anime style, right?
Yeah, but it's American.
Yeah.
But
it's kind of like the last Avatar in that way.
You mean Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the last Avatar.
No, I'll explain why I made that confusion when I start talking about my shows.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, because I know what you've been watching too.
Yes.
It's kind of anime-esque, yeah.
Okay.
So it's an American animation based on the video games, because Castlevania is a video games series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of like retro. They have some really old games that are like scroller type games, and there's some newer ones too. But
okay.
Yeah, so it's a series based on a game, but it's all based on like vampires and Dracula and vampire hunters and magicians and wizards and stuff. And it's a really cool series. So I would recommend it if you're into that kind of thing. It's kind of grim dark, but
I had already added it to my list on Netflix, and then you sent me a message earlier this week that was like, oh my gosh, you have to add this to your list. And I was like, haha, it's already on my list. I haven't started watching it, but it is on my list.
It is very good. So, and it's only 4 seasons, and there's only like 10 episodes a season, so...
Yeah, not a huge time commitment.
No, it would not take you long to chew through. So yeah, been watching those, and I think that's probably going to wrap it up. So now, for what I'm going to be playing, I'm probably going to keep going on my replay of Persona 5 Royale and just get that done. And then I have Persona 5 Strikers, which I need to play, and a slew of other games that I need to play. So I think that's
And
going to be
our RPG.
Oh, right. Yes. And our RPG, which we are actually playing another session tomorrow.
Yeah.
So that'll be really fun. Yeah. I'm excited. I know it's going to happen, or what's probably going to happen. So.
Very cool.
Alrighty. Your turn.
Yeah. So for me, I think I mentioned last week the Ray Carson books. Walk on Earth, a Stranger is the first book in the Gold Seer series. And I was like, I'm going to listen to it and I'm going to read the other ones. But I was listening to it while I was working, and then I finished the first book, and I still had like 4 hours left in the day, and was like, man, I can just listen to the second book. And wouldn't you know, I ended up listening to the whole series. But I am glad that I own the hardcover books, because I enjoyed them a lot. And I was able to listen to them on Hoopla, so it's not like I paid for them twice. But even if I paid for them twice, it wouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because it's just supporting the author more.
Sure.
But they're quite good. Each book is... I don't know, I feel like when I finished the first book, there was definitely room for the story to grow, but it also kind of felt like she wasn't sure if she was going to get a second book deal, because it... Like, you could finish the first book and then, like... just assume that everything went hunky-dory from there. And then the same with the second book, where it finished and it was like, oh, this could be like the end of this series.
Sure.
So, but there's 3 books and they're all quite good. They cover a lot of like social issues, which is interesting. Since it's set in the Wild West. And during the Gold Rush, and there's characters with magic, and then it turns out that there's more than just the main character that has magic. But that's all I want to say about that, because I don't want to spoil too much about these books, because they're quite good.
Sure.
But they also talk a lot about how, like, Asian immigrants were treated in the early California days, and how Native Americans were treated. And it was... some of it was painful to read, but, like, painful in a good way. Or, like, in a, like, realization kind of way, if that makes sense. But quite good. Would highly recommend. Those are by Ray Carson.
Cool.
So I finished those books, and I'm still working on the Shadow and Bone books. Still on the first one.
I want to watch that.
Yeah, me too. So I got a lot of reading to do.
I'm not going to read it before I watch it.
That's fine. And maybe I'll give up on that.
We'll see.
Yeah. But that's still my plan, is to read all the books first. I did listen to Persuasion by Jane Austen this week as well, and that was very good, which means I have listened to all of the Jane Austen books except for the one that was not completed at the time of her death.
Oh, I didn't even know there was such a book.
Yeah, I can't think of what it's called, but I haven't read that one. And now I'm gearing up for my new book clubs that'll start after we get back from vacation. So that's going to be going through The Voyage of the Dawn Treader by C.S. Lewis, and I'm doing a book club on Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, which I'm so excited about.
That'll be very fun.
I know. So I'm bringing Pride and Prejudice with me on vacation so that I can do some book club prep.
Very cool.
But it'll be really cool. And then for what I'm watching, this is why I said the last Avatar. Because I'm watching The Legend of Korra. And almost all of the arcs are around people trying to destroy her and make her the last Avatar. So, like, that phrase has been said several times.
Yeah.
which is why
So it's just like
I
imprinted.
accidentally said it.
It's just like being hammered home in your brain. So
Yes.
like,
Yes.
sure.
It's really different from The Last Airbender.
I've heard that.
But I like it. Like the main characters are older, like they're teenagers, and now in the fourth season, which I'm on now, they're even like they're young adults now. They're not kids necessarily. So it's very different tonally, but it's still quite good. And they make some really nice allusions to the other series. Like, I definitely teared up during the first season when Zuko's grandson shows up.
Oh.
And he sounds just like Zuko. And I was like,
no.
oh no.
Yeah.
And Katara's still in the series. And actually Zuko's still around later on. So anyway, it's kind of fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I am watching The Bad Batch, but I think I'm behind an episode.
There's 4 episodes.
Yeah, I've only watched 3, so
Cool.
I'm behind one. But yeah, so that's what I've been reading and watching. Not playing anything other than our RPG and, so.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yes. Now, before we get into Liza Locke Lamora, I do want to ask you, how many books do you plan on taking on vacation?
Oh, I will probably bring... I mean, I should bring Liza Locke Lamora, but I also have that on audiobook, so I won't bring that. I will bring maybe The Great Hunt and some other books that I've just been reading that aren't fiction. I might bring some of those, I should say I have been reading some other books besides the Lives of Locke Lamora. Just they're not fantasy books. They're
or fiction. Like,
Yeah.
even if you're reading like just a random fiction book, you could talk about that.
Yeah, that's fine.
They're not, so.
Yeah, no.
Like, if you decided to randomly to start reading Stephen King, I would expect you to report on the Stephen King novels that you were reading.
But
you know what I mean?
These books are not storytelling at all. It's
No.
like informational
Yes.
things that I've been reading. So anyway, I'll probably bring 1 or 2 of those. One I'm actually almost done with. And that's probably going to be it.
Okay.
Not too many, because I feel like I have had vacations before where I've brought like 2 or 3 books and then won't even touch them the whole time.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll be more likely to if they're audiobooks. So
Yeah, because that doesn't take any room in your suitcase.
yeah, because then I can just plug headphones into my phone and go from there. So maybe I'll actually re-up my Audible subscription and put some more on there. So
yeah.
In which case I could put The Great Hunt on there.
You could.
And then I could listen to some of that.
You're better at going and doing both.
Yeah.
Once I start listening to something, I just listen.
You have to listen. You can't alternate. Yeah, I've been alternating for Lives of Locke Lamora. Like, even this week, there was one chapter that I read half of and then listened to the last half of, and then I listened to the first half of the next one and just read the last half of the last one. So
yeah, I mean, if that works,
but it works.
for you. Yeah.
I get to hear what the gentleman that's been reading it, I get to hear how he pronounces things, and I'm like, oh, is that how it's supposed to be?
Okay, well, here's a funny thing. So when I was listening to the Gold Seer books, the first book, there's a character who's German, and they pronounce her name Teresa.
Okay.
And then in the second book, she comes up a couple times, call her Teresa. And then the last book, she's the same narrator started pronouncing it Therese, which I think is probably more accurate to the German pronunciation of how that name would be pronounced, but I don't know for sure. But it just made me laugh because I was like, wait, who are we talking about? And then I had to pay extra attention to what else she was saying about this character, and I was like, oh, she's talking about Teresa. Why is she saying it Therese now? It was very weird.
That is very weird.
But
maybe the author was like, no, you're saying it wrong.
Maybe.
For 2 whole books, you've been saying it wrong.
Right.
So fix it for the last one and confuse everyone.
And she, spoiler alert, she's not alive anymore in the last one. So it's like,
Now
why?
they're just speaking ill of the dead.
Right.
Mocking her name.
So, anyway.
How many books are you going to bring? You're going to bring Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, I'm for sure bringing Pride and Prejudice. I'm going to bring Shadow and Bone. And then I might bring the next book in that series. Maybe. Because I feel like once I like hit a stride with it, and we're going to be in like on the plains for...
Yeah, we'll have a couple hours on planes and stuff.
Yeah. Which I don't know if I'll read or not on the planes. We'll see. But anyway, so I might bring the next book in that series just in case. But I haven't like totally decided. I'm normally someone who brings way too many books.
Right.
And I'm trying to like
rein
keep
it in.
my expectations low.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, ready to talk about Lies of Locke Lamora?
Yes. I'm going to set my timer, even though I don't know that we need to set a timer for this one because I don't have a ton to say.
These chapters were definitely set up. I mean, they were entertaining. Not as intense as the last couple.
No, not at all. So chapter 12 was called The Fat Priest of Talvera, which we find out that Jean and Locke are in hiding, basically, with some new buddies that Jean has made while Locke has been incapacitated.
And one of them is a doctor, kind of.
Yes. His name is Master Ibelius?
Yeah.
Is that how
that's how I've been pronouncing it in my head anyway.
Okay. And he's very chatty.
Yeah.
And I kind of enjoy him.
He is fun.
He just says whatever's on his mind. And calls Locke out for being stupid, which I kind of appreciate. Because he's very foolhardy. He just like jumps into things without thinking too hard about them sometimes. And then we also learn that Jean is pretending to be a part of the Order of the Lady Most Kind, who is also death, right?
Yeah,
that
that's like the religion of Comor's death sect. Like that's the god that they worship is basically the goddess of death. Yeah. So
the Lady Most Kind.
Yeah, the Lady Most Kind. So, which is interesting because he gets to like intimidate people as a priest of this basically like death cult.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how he ends up like, because he kind of studied with them, but like bailed on it.
When he was younger, he, like we learned that in one of the intermission things, that he went and studied with them and then pretended to commit suicide.
So he could get out.
Yeah.
Because it was crazy.
Yeah, because they were nuts.
So he shows up like in tatters and is like, I was robbed. They stole my robes. And this acolyte's like, oh. And gets him all set up.
But he like knows all the lingo.
Yeah.
So they just hooked him up with all this stuff.
Yeah. So now he can kind of move through the city in disguise. Because they wear masks. So that was what was stolen, he said. I think. Yeah. I read that chapter a while ago.
You did, so yeah. You actually read your stuff faster than me this time. But
except for this last chapter, I finished it today.
I finished it last night.
I started it last night and then I was too tired.
Yeah.
And then the interlude was just introducing this new, would you call him a mercenary?
Well, he's like he's kind
banker?
He's kind of like he's more official than a loan shark, but much more kind of more gangster, like mob boss than an official like loan from a bank. Like he runs this big counting house where people can go to get loans for stuff, and it's all like everyone's wearing all their rich clothes and everything, but also like they have bodyguards in there that'll like throw you out and mess you up.
Right.
If you try anything shady. So that the second chapter, well, we got introduced to this character, and it was kind of like
last name Miraggio.
Yeah, Miraggio. And then it was basically like he is in a way there's the Duke, like Nicovante, who runs like the administrative stuff for the city, and then there's the Miraggio, who is like kind of the financial kingpin, although that's more like the cop is the kingpin of the city. But they keep on like comparing people to being like another duke. Like
Right.
that's just a thing. Like if you're high enough, they're like, oh, he's like the other Duke of Comor. So they've got like the Duke, which is Nicovanti, and then they've got the Kappa, now Kappa Raza, who's like the kingpin, and the crime lord, who's like another Duke, like the underworld Duke. And now there's the Miragio guy, who is like the financial Duke
Right.
of the city. So
Which, do you remember way back when I thought the Duke and the Kappa were the same character?
yep.
Okay. It's more fair now as we're meeting more, like, powerful people. And they keep comparing them to the Duke. And I'm like, that's probably why I got confused.
Yeah.
They probably made that comparison. And I was like, oh, he's the Duke.
Yeah.
And forgot the underworld part.
Right. Yeah.
So
that's apparently kind of the stature of this guy. And then in the next chapter, Locke is in the counting house.
Yeah.
And we got to kind of see Locke in action. I picture this as kind of like a in a movie. It'd be like one of those segments, just kind of like a funny, like he's trying so hard,
yes,
and just keeps failing because they realize that they're out of clothes and they don't have any disguises.
Right, and he's still wearing like half of the Grey King getup. Like he still has the gray hair and everything.
Right. But they lost all of their like costume stuff.
Right.
When they lit the House of Perilandro on fire.
Right.
So
and the easiest way for them to make some money right now would be to wrap up this con on the Don Salvara from like the very beginning of the book. But they don't have any of the Lucas Fairweight clothes anymore.
Yeah. So he's literally trying to go to these people to get a loan, but instead of money, he's trying to get them to give him their clothes.
Which the first one is like, no, I'm not going to give you $30 worth of clothes to borrow for $5, essentially. Yeah. I mean, it's not quite the exchange rate, but that's basically what was.
And then he got kicked out.
Yeah. And then he came back again with a slightly different, he ripped off some of his, like, fake hair on his face.
And then it was just the mustache.
And tried a different guy. Yeah. And that guy almost bought into it. And then he was like, no, you're testing me. Just like that one lady was tested.
And then she failed. And like bad things happened to her.
Yeah.
I know you're testing me. And then...
I have beat you.
Yeah. Which definitely frustrated Locke. Mm-hmm. And then he got the brilliant idea, though, seeing... What's his name again?
Miragio.
Seeing him just up in the balcony observing and his fine clothes. And I was
and they're like a similar build.
Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me?
And I was like, how are you going to do that?
He couldn't get these little lone guys to do it, and he's going to find a way to take the clothes off the big man himself.
But which he does.
Yeah, the rest of the chapter is all he convinced one of the butlers to give him his clothes because he was like a secret courier for the Duke who needed to get a message to him, but he like I don't know what the excuse was. He didn't have the right get-up and couldn't get close to him.
Yeah, I might be confusing because each time it was a different story on why he needed
and
clothes.
Then so he managed to get the clothes from a butler and gave him like five crowns to just give up his clothes.
And then hang out in a closet until he could come back and give him his clothes back.
Yeah.
So he's hanging out in a closet.
And then as soon as he has the clothes, he leaves and tells the guards that this butler guy just sold his outfit to him and he's an idiot and he's there to like test the security. He literally went the I'm here to test security route.
Oh yeah. And very successfully.
Yeah. Because
of what had happened with the second guy.
Because there was apparently someone recently who had been tested in this way and failed. And so he just kind of jumped on that.
So he makes it all the way up to Miragio by saying that he's security. Right. And then when he gets to Miragio, he spins it a little further.
Yeah, and he's like, I'm here from Caparaza. I work for him. Someone's trying to kill you. I'm here to protect you.
Yeah.
And I made it all the way here. Your people are incompetent. You're going to die if you don't do what I say. And it worked. And he managed to get his clothes by saying that he would stand in for him to try to catch the assassin because they're a similar build. And got the clothes off his back and then left and gave some money that he pilfered from the room somewhere along the line. He managed to grab a bag of coins. I forget where.
Yeah, I don't
And
remember
he went back to the original butler, who was then being like detained because they thought that he was in on this assassination attempt.
Yes.
And he went back to that original butler and gave him like a bag of coins that was equivalent to like a year's wages for him.
Yeah.
And was like, you need to get out of town or they're going to kill you. Sorry for dragging you into my issues. But
yeah. But here, this is a year's worth of money. You can figure something else out.
Yes. Leave town, start a new life for yourself.
And then the guy takes off.
Yep. So I was glad that he went back and did that for that poor
I am
butler.
too. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Locke, this is bad.
You just ruined this man's career and life.
And it, like, he was just excited for some extra coin.
Yeah. Like, it went from...
Make a couple extra bucks, too.
It went from this guy let this person in, which is a breach of security, which would have just been, like, fired, to this man is an accomplice in an assassination attempt.
Right.
Like, man, it escalated so fast.
Yes.
So yeah, I'm glad that Locke went back and helped the guy.
Yeah. But he has no intention of ever going back to the Miragio and giving him his clothes back. I don't think. He was just like, I got the clothes and now I can go be Lucas Fairweight and...
Yep.
Cool.
So, and that's pretty much where the chapter ends.
Yeah, and there was no interlude with this chapter.
No interlude, so yeah.
It was weird. I was like expecting one.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that's happened. Where there's no interlude, so...
Yeah.
Oh well.
But...
So we've got, I think, within 2 podcast episodes, we'll be done with it. Because there's only...
Yeah, you just have 2 sections left.
There's 2 more... The next time, we'll go over 2 more chapters, and then it'll be final chapter epilogue for the last.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Almost done.
Almost done. Excited.
Good. Yeah.
I'm probably going to end up picking up or starting the second book when we're done with this.
I have them.
I have the second one, I don't have the third one, so... Because I'm interested. I like these characters.
I do too. And I want to know more about the girl.
Yeah, I'm like, are you just not going to...
Is she not going to come back? We're just going to mention her
until, like, the
randomly?
next book? Like... yeah.
But
we'll see.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah, it has been. So, we're going to talk about character death.
Character deaths.
Yes.
Sad times.
Yes. So, before
Unless it's the villain. But even
true.
then it can... I don't know. Whatever. Sometimes it can be sad.
Yeah, it depends on if... Sometimes the villains get a redemption arc and then they die.
Right. Which is
And
something
that's kind
that
of sad.
I'm sure we can cover.
Yes.
Don't want to jump the gun.
Right. So, you mentioned before we started recording that you have, like, you remember the first character death that actually hit you hard.
Yeah, well, it's the first thing that I can remember seeing where a main character died. And it's an Errol Flynn movie. It's a really old Errol Flynn movie.
Okay.
It's like something Dawn Patrol.
Uh-huh.
And Errol Flynn is this...
I think. Is it called Dawn Patrol?
It might just be called Dawn Patrol. But Errol Flynn is the main character, and he's like this fighter pilot in World War I or II. I don't recall.
I haven't seen that movie in a very long time.
Me neither. But basically, in the end, he goes on a mission that I think he wasn't supposed to go on, and he gets shot down. And it's sad because, like, Errol Flynn is the swashbuckling hero that, like, you can't take down. Like Captain Blood or Robin Hood or the Seahawk. Like, he's always the character that you can't... Like, man, Errol Flynn can't die. He's the guy.
Yeah.
And then it was a movie where his character died at the end. And I was just like, I remember being so bummed out.
Yeah. So it's called The Dawn Patrol.
Okay, just The Dawn Patrol.
And it was British flying aces in World War I contend with the harsh realities of war.
Yep.
Yeah. It has Basil Rathbone in it.
It does. He's not a pilot, I think.
Yeah. He's a good guy in this one.
Yeah, which is also bizarre.
Yes. Yes.
No sword fights.
No
just
sword
dog
fights.
fights.
Yes.
But not with actual dogs.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's really the first time that a main character like that, and like, it also wasn't just the main character, it was the actor too, because you don't expect Errol Flynn's character to die.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Especially not in, like, golden Hollywood era of movies.
Just kind of bizarre.
Yeah, really atypical.
Yeah.
But I kind of appreciate how, I mean, in a movie that's about World War One or World War Two, there's a very high probability that you were not coming home.
Yeah.
So, I kind of respect their choice to make that choice.
Yeah, it seemed more raw and like more realistic. You know, plot armor only gets you so far.
Speaking of plot armor, I want to talk about that today.
Okay. Well, that's a good segue.
Yeah, it is. So what is plot armor, first of all, in case people have not heard that term before?
So,
how would you define it?
The story needs a character to live, so they will continue to live regardless of crazy, bizarre, dangerous circumstances they find themselves in that they probably shouldn't be able to come out of alive.
Yeah, I would say like the number one character that comes to mind is Jack Sparrow.
Oh yeah.
Because he should have died several times. And then by the time you get to the last one that they made, so 5, his plot armor is so thick, I don't know why he's there. Like,
yeah,
they could have killed him, and it would not have changed the movie, which was weird. It's like the opposite of plot armor. You know what I mean?
Well, in that case, it's like this character is just here to sell tickets.
Well, yeah.
We know people like this character,
right?
And so we're gonna just make a movie with him in it,
But it's like plot armor got him so far that, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because he definitely had it in the earlier movies.
But for the first 3, it was like less noticeable.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't going to die, but like in the third one.
But that's kind of what plot armor is. Like, know that this character's not going to die because without that character, there's not a story.
Although in the second one, he kind of did with the Kraken.
Okay.
But
he had a jar of dirt.
The third one was all about bringing Jack back, which they did.
Oh, yes. Is that the one with the jar of dirt?
No, that's the second one still.
Okay.
But because Davy Jones can't go on land, so he just carries around a jar of dirt.
Right.
I
haven't seen those movies in so long.
Yeah, it's been a while. But yeah, no, that's a good example. Or like, I don't know, like Luke Skywalker. If he died, that'd be,
in the original trilogy, yeah. Yes.
Also, if it's a story where like, that the character continues because it's like a prequel.
Oh, yes.
Then it's like, okay, I know this character is not going to die because they show up later. You know.
So Bilbo has.
Right.
If you saw The Lord of the Rings first, which most people did because they came out first.
Yeah.
Like, Bilbo's going to make it through The Hobbit fine. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And Gandalf is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, that's what I would say plot armor is.
Okay. Yeah. So then my next question was, we can skip it.
Oh, did we kind of cover it?
We did kind of cover it, but I guess, do you think that plot armor makes a character's survival disingenuous? Does that make sense?
I think it depends on the plot.
Hmm.
I think that it depends on the circumstance. It's like, Indiana Jones in the 4th one that people forget existed.
Yeah.
I forget what it's even called. Oh, the Crystal Skull. Mm-hmm. He climbs in a refrigerator and takes a nuclear blast. Mm-hmm. It gets flung like 3 miles in a fridge.
And rolls out. Unscathed.
Yeah. That's ridiculous.
If the nuclear blast didn't get you, the physics would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it just kind of depends, if it's so outlandish that it pulls me out and like breaks the immersion, like that shouldn't have happened. How did that happen? That's stupid. Then I think that's a problem. Mm-hmm. If it's a series of close calls, it's more forgivable. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally.
But if it's a series of like huge things where it's like there's no way you should still be alive right now. This is crazy.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, I think it kind of depends on the circumstance. But so it's just walking that line. How far can you push it before it starts to pull people out of it? And because you don't want to draw attention to it.
Right.
Like the main character is probably going to survive the first at least couple of books or movies.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you still make it so that the stakes are high, even though there's plot armor involved, you know?
Yeah.
And how do you still make it tense?
Mm-hmm.
So
I've read a lot of Ray Carson books this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's quickly moving up on my list of like favorite authors.
Cool.
So in the Fire and Thorns trilogy by Ray Carson, which I read earlier this year, the first book, The Girl of Fire and Thorns, there was which turns out was her debut novel.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm very impressed that her debut novel was this good. But there were two characters that I thought had plot armor. Like, they were close enough to the main character that I was like, well, these two are going to be fine. They're going to make it through this series. Wrong.
Uh-oh.
And one of them, it was very emotional and made me very upset.
Yeah.
And when they died, I was like, oh my gosh. What?
Uh-huh.
And so then when I was reading through the Gold Seer trilogy, I didn't trust that anyone had plot armor. Like, there were several close calls with, like, the main character's significant person. And I was like, oh my gosh. She's actually going to kill him. He's going to die. And then he didn't.
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't trust her. I don't trust her to keep these people alive anymore because I've read books where she killed people off that I cared about.
Mm-hmm.
It ended up being for the better. Like, the way things turned out. I mean,
sure,
that character would have been fine if he had survived. But things worked out okay in the end for the main character. But
I think that's becoming kind of a phenomenon that Game of Thrones started with killing people that you don't expect to be killed and subverting expectations with that. And then I think a lot of people started identifying that as like it's almost like people started identifying that as a indication of good storytelling. If you're willing to kill off, your Ned Stark, then you know what I mean? I feel like
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't agree with it. I can tell by you
I'm
shaking your head that you don't
head.
agree with it. I know you don't agree with it, but I'm just saying I think that people did that.
Yes. And actually, I have, like, Martin as a point of contention to talk about.
Yeah.
Because none of his characters have plot armor.
Right.
Any of them could die.
At any point.
time.
In any chapter.
Like, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think just makes for a highly stressful read. It's not necessarily enjoyable at that point. Because your favorite characters are always dying. Ned Stark dies. Robb Stark dies. Catelyn Stark dies. Oberyn dies.
Yeah.
It's easier to list characters who did not die.
Yeah. It's almost, and that's another kind of tightrope that you're walking of.
Yeah.
You want there to be tension. Mm-hmm. But there's like the far end of the spectrum of like they have plot armor so thick that they could get shot in the head and be fine in the next chapter.
Yeah.
But there's also so far on the other end of the spectrum, like where Martin is, where it's almost like manipulative, where it's like, I feel like this author is toying with my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Like
to the point where I almost don't care anymore.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't even care about the story. I don't even want to keep reading, because it's like none of the people that I like are
surviving.
Yeah.
It's just the nasty ones that keep surviving.
Yeah. And the plot isn't moving fast enough to keep me in it. How many books is that again for that series?
There's 5 of them, I think. So it's not done.
But they're bricks. Like
yes.
I mean, people love the books. They're
yes,
fun.
And I think that Martin is
he's a
very
good author
competent and successful writer
when he's writing.
I just have a hard time.
That's just not your style.
It's not my style, and I this goes back to like the tropes that I hate, and I hate it when there's no hope.
Yeah.
And the Game of Thrones books begin to feel like there is no hope.
Right. And it feels pretty bleak.
Yes.
So.
Yes.
That's just kind of grimdark for you.
Yeah.
It has a lot of grimdark aspects. It's still like a fantasy. It's,
Yeah.
But
I may wait to continue, because I've read the first 2 books in that series, and I may wait to continue reading until he has put out the last book.
If that ever happens.
Right. If it is the last book.
Yeah. Who knows?
But
yeah, so I think that's, which end of the spectrum you fall on. I think you got to be in the middle somewhere. because
Yeah.
otherwise people either don't take any situation seriously because they know it's all going to be fine in the end, or they're just going to stop reading because they feel like you're toying with their emotions and
Right.
it's just not fun. And people want to read
Yeah.
because it's fun. I mean, unless you're a masochist, but
Right.
you just want to punish yourself. Or
Yeah. And again, I think that Ray Carson does a really good job of, like, you're on your toes, like, you're nervous for the characters, and then you're relieved when they're okay. But, you know, and maybe I wouldn't have felt that if I hadn't read that other series earlier in the year. Because it's not like she continued to kill off characters willy-nilly. She didn't.
Sure.
And that character death ended up being very pivotal for the main character and how she interacted with the world after. You know, like, character death can be a big motivator for the other characters.
Oh, yeah. I feel like it
should be.
It has to be. The most heartbreaking things that could happen would be like a character death that ends up meaning nothing, which can almost be a driving factor in and of itself if like it's like this person died for nothing, and then that just really ticks off your main character, and like then they go John Wick on everyone.
Yeah.
But I mean, what I mean is there, you know, if the character death happens and then it has like no bearing on the plot, like, well, why did that happen then?
Right.
You know, because each chapter we need to learn something new, something has to develop, and if a character death happens and it just totally means nothing, then, you know, I don't know. If at least if it's a big character, if it's like a red shirt, then
Yeah.
you know, but because that's like in Game of Thrones again, like when Ned Stark dies, that like catapults the story into this whole, like, his whole family wants to go to war with half the country over it, and like there's a ton of repercussions for that character death. So
Right. And okay, yes, in Martin's defense, anytime there's a character death, there's a very clear chain of events that follows it that would not have happened had that character death not happened.
there's definitely a domino effect.
Yes.
So, which I think you need to have.
Yeah.
Which,
so
I
he's
mean,
very skilled at doing that. It's just
he is a good writer.
You become very numb to the characters.
Yeah.
After Ned Stark dies, you're like, oh, I can't love any of them.
Yeah.
Because they're just going to die. And then they do.
But anyway.
Yeah.
I think another thing with character deaths, I don't know if this is on your sheet, like how predictable, if you can tell, like, this character was designed to die.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Because this is what happened in Ghost of Tsushima.
Oh, okay.
So spoilers, if you haven't played the game and you plan on playing it, plug your ears for the next however long. But yeah, sorry, there's really no good way to tell you how long this is going to be. Okay, so basically, you're a samurai, you get rescued by this female character who's super cool, and this female character has a brother where, like, her whole mission in life is protecting her brother and making sure nothing bad happens to her brother, and like one of the missions is us breaking him out of a Mongol prison, and then you meet his brother, he like makes you a grappling hook that you get to use in the game, and he's super cool, and like his whole arc is about becoming cool like the main character, and this girl, Yuna is her name, Yuna's arc is taking care of her brother, making sure nothing bad happens to her brother, and she doesn't really like that he's trying to emulate the Ghost of Tsushima, who is the main character. So it's like, I wonder if the brother's gonna die and throw his sister into a mental breakdown killing spree. I wonder if you only exist to die and throw the characters into, like,
Yeah.
you know, into their character development stuff. Because it's like the only way that Yuna can progress as a character is for him to either die or like something was going to happen to him, you just didn't know what, and it's like dying is probably what's going to happen there.
Yeah.
So
Man.
And then guess what, it happened.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. Like the big bad like I was going on a solo mission and then he shows up to try to help me, even though they were going to be like leaving the island the next day. Of course he shows up in the last minute to help me because he knew I couldn't do it alone. And then we both get captured by the big bad, and he gets beheaded in front of me. And yeah, with my sword.
Oh no. Well, that's awful.
Yeah. And then his sister shows up to break me out because she realized I got captured and asks where he's at. And then she goes and finds his body. And then me and her go on a killing spree and kill all the Mongols in the camp.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah.
That's intense.
It is very intense. I mean, it's a very good game. But
Yes.
that is one thing where that was so predictable. Like, I almost predicted that the second I met his character. I was like, you're going to die.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
that's I guess another thing that should be avoided.
Yeah.
Because it's like, but I will say this for the game though, even though that I knew it was coming, I was still very emotionally invested and hated it while it was happening, even though I knew it was going to happen, you know? So they still did a good job keeping me invested, even if I called it from the beginning.
Sure.
But yeah. So that's my spiel about predictable death.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm trying to think if there's any other examples of that, and I don't know that I have any.
If you're watching a TV show and like a new character gets introduced that's very likable.
Depends on what type of show.
And you know it's like a one-off character that's not going to show up in another episode. It's like, I wonder if he'll die.
Yeah, if you know it's not someone who becomes like part of the main cast.
Yeah. Another thing with Ghost of Tsushima, I wish, and this is just for video games in general, I wish that they would stop killing my horse.
They killed your horse?
Red Dead Redemption 2 did it, and Ghost of Tsushima did it.
Oh, that makes me sad.
And it is so depressing. Like, I was riding out of a camp trying to escape, and my horse gets shot up with arrows while I'm riding it. And then I have to watch a montage of me exhausted on the back of my wounded horse with arrows sticking out of it while it's like limping along with me on top of it and eventually collapses. And I have to leave the horse.
That's awful.
It was traumatizing.
That is so bad.
And
I'll make that petition. Video game creators, stop doing that. That's not okay.
Red Dead Redemption did it with, like, at the because that's kind of a weird thing where you know that your character is dying because he has tuberculosis.
Okay.
And then at the very end, like, he's basically on death's door and he's riding and he's trying to run away from, like, investigators or like law enforcement people, and your horse gets shot, and it's scripted, like it's going to happen, and it's so sad because the horse gets like a musical motif for the moment, and like he says thank you to the horse, and then goes and like has to fight all these.
Is that a trope in westerns?
When the horse dies?
Yeah, because I'm thinking that there's like some John Wayne movie where that happens too.
Yeah,
not like that
probably.
Specifically, but like
I'm sure.
they ride the horse to death.
Yeah.
Because of desperate need of whatever.
Yeah.
Sort. But
yeah, when horses die or pets die, that sucks.
yes.
And
Agreed.
I feel like horses dying on me in a lot of these open world games is becoming a thing, and I don't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't even use my horse that much in Ghost of Tsushima because I like running around.
Yeah.
But still, I was still very sad. So,
Sad day.
anyway, that's another thing. That counts as character death.
It does.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like horses definitely become a character in those situations.
and my horse had a name.
And, like, the Ray Carson books have had a named horse or two in them as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that video games just killing your horse is a thing. Because there's other games where it happens or almost happens too that I can think of. Mm-hmm. Like, I think Shadow of Colossus does that, which is a game you've never heard of.
Nope.
Or they almost did it. Like, you think your horse died, but then it didn't at the end.
Huh.
Yeah.
And
Even though
it's
your
just 'cause they
horse like
want
straight
you
up
to
falls
run
off
around?
a cliff. But yeah.
Okay.
Pulled an Aragorn.
Yeah. At least Aragorn's horse didn't also fall off the cliff and somehow survive.
Yeah.
Because, you know.
That'd been weird.
Yeah. Horse. Anyway.
So yeah, horses dying is not fun.
No.
Or
Agreed.
pets. Or whatever. That makes me sad. I think it's interesting though that some people get more worked up about that than character deaths, though. Like movies like Marley and Me, where
Oh.
the dog dies or the puppy dies or something, or John Wick when the dog dies.
I haven't seen John Wick, so I don't
Yeah.
have a reference for that, but I know what you're saying. I think it's, well, I don't know why people would get more upset about animals dying, except that they're generally defenseless.
That's a good point.
And
they're just doing what they're told.
Right, and they're just like lovable.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's nothing evil about them, potentially. Like even though most of the characters we've talked about have been good guys.
Yeah.
But they have some means of defending themselves, usually. So I think like when kids die or when animals die, it feels particularly unfair because they didn't have a chance to protect themselves.
That's fair. That makes sense.
Yeah. And Marley and Me, it's like, it's sad because it's a golden retriever.
And you got to see the dog's whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
okay.
What else you got?
Well, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but has a character death ever turned you off of a story or a series? Because like Ned Stark dying would have been a clear like chance to just get out of Game of Thrones, but I stuck with the whole show and read the second book, so it didn't really turn me off.
I'm trying to think if there was anything that I just bailed on because of a character death. I mean, there are definitely shows where I'm like, if this character dies, I'm out. We riot.
Yeah.
But it hasn't happened, so.
Yeah.
Like
the showrunners figured it out.
Like in The Walking Dead, if Daryl dies, I'm out. That's just. I couldn't deal with that.
Fair.
So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's happened because I don't think the characters that I've been super attached to have died other than the obvious things like Game of Thrones. Like Oberyn Martell is one of my favorite characters in that whole show. And was a one-season wonder. But
yeah,
one-book wonder in the books, I guess. But, yeah, I can't think of an instance where someone dying just made me totally shut down and stop. Fair. Has it happened to you?
I was trying to think. I don't think so. I'm thinking of...
Or if it has happened, it's like right at the end.
Right.
And so
like, I was going to stop anyway.
You're like into the falling action then. So it's like, I guess this is happening,
Right. They're like extended universe for Star Wars, like legacy stuff.
Yeah.
When Anakin Solo dies. That was like super jarring.
Sure.
But there's not other stuff happening that I was invested in that I kept reading. But his character was really cool. So sad to see him go.
What, doesn't Chewie die too?
Yeah, they die in the same book.
Oh, jeez.
I'm pretty sure they both
too
die
much.
In Star by Star.
Oh, that's too much.
Yeah. Yes, that was a hard book to read.
Oh.
At least I'm pretty sure it was the same book. I'm like 90% certain. Anyway, eventually I'll reread them all and I'll be able to tell you.
Good grief. Good luck.
That is my plan to eventually do, but I have a lot of other books to get through first.
Best of luck
to you. Okay, so what are some most notable character deaths?
Oh.
I want to start with Gandalf and Boromir.
Yeah, for Lord of the Rings, that's yeah, definitely.
So Gandalf, like when I was reading the books and his character died, I was so profoundly sad because I loved Gandalf. Because I had also read The Hobbit first. So I had like a connection with Gandalf that went beyond the Lord of the Rings. And it was just like, why? He was so cool. And he was so good. spoiler, he comes back, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But you have to wait like almost a whole book before you find out he's coming back. And then when Boromir died, I feel bad, but when I first read the books, Boromir was such an annoying character to me. Because he was so...
You were like, good, I don't have to keep reading about him.
Basically. That's kind of how... I mean, I was like,
Yeah.
another one of the Fellowship died. But it was more just like... Because Gandalf had already died. It was like, oh, another one died.
Yeah.
Oh, no. But I didn't, like, miss his character at all. It wasn't until I met Faramir. And then I was like, oh, I feel bad for Faramir because his brother died.
He had a family.
He had a family that loved him. Yeah. And now I'm sad.
And, like, everyone from his country loved him.
Right. And then you find out that it, like, he was well respected and he was a man of high character, and it was the ring and the pressure from his father that was making him act like an imbecile.
Yeah.
And was out of character for him, actually. But you don't know that until after he's gone and been gone. And then it's like, oh, now I feel bad that I didn't care so much about that character.
Yeah.
And now when I watch that scene, after understanding the whole story, like when I watch the movie, like Boromir's death makes me feel very emotional now.
Yeah. Even just replaying it in my head is very sad.
Yeah.
Because, like, he finally got... It's like at the very end, protecting the hobbits, he finally got to redeem his character a bit.
But
and
it's like
that's the way that he was supposed to be the whole time.
Yeah.
And we finally got to see a glimpse of it. And...
Because the ring had finally let go of its hold on him.
Yeah. And then he dies, and the hobbits get captured anyway.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But... I think another big one for this is switching to Star Wars.
Okay.
Is Qui-Gon Jinn.
Ooh, I didn't have him on my list, but that's a good one.
Because I think you could argue that none of, like, if he had lived, there's a lot of stuff. Like, Anakin might not have turned to the dark side.
Yeah, because he would have had the father figure. Like, Obi-Wan couldn't be a father figure. They were too...
Yeah.
They were both too young.
They were more brothered. Yeah, I think that Anakin might not have turned to the dark side. And I think that was one of those that hurt because we really liked, like, I mean, it's the thing again, it's like Gandalf, where, like, the wise old mentor dies. And, Ben Kenobi also in A New Hope. And Han Solo in Force Awakens.
Yeah.
That's just that's the trope we talked about. But, yeah, Qui-Gon's definitely hit me harder, I think, than Ben Kenobi did. But I also really like Liam Neeson, so it was just a...
Yeah. I think you're probably right, because when Ben Kenobi dies, he's, like, resolved. His death scene, he sees Luke, and he goes, okay, and he stops fighting. And then he dies. Whereas Qui-Gon was still fighting.
Yeah.
Like, he was determined to win.
He wanted to live and train Anakin. Because he was convinced that Anakin was the chosen one.
Right.
And he wanted to train him. And then he got taken out.
And he'd also made a promise that he'd look after him.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
And makes Obi-Wan promise to train him instead.
Yeah. So, very pivotal death. But,
that's probably the biggest Star Wars one for me.
Yeah. I was thinking of also, I had Darth Vader down. But his is more that he has the redemption. He finally gets to come full circle.
Yeah.
And then he dies.
Yep.
But there wasn't really any path forward for Darth Vader after the mass genocide.
Right. I think you hit a point with the redemption arc where the only way they can properly... Well, be careful how I word that. There comes a point with a character where they've done so many bad things and so many messed up, horrible, like, genocides on the list.
Yeah.
There's other things that would make the list for sure, where you can redeem yourself, but I think the only way that the readers will be okay with your redemption arc is if you die in the process.
I don't know that it's about the readers even, though. I think it's the other characters in the world.
Right, yeah.
Like,
or
you can't tell me that Luke could have walked up to the Rebel Alliance and been like, hey, I know this is Darth Vader, but he's also my dad, and he's actually a pretty cool dude. Like, I'm pretty sure that all of the rebels would have been like, no.
Like, we are going to put him on trial and execute him.
Yes.
Because he's committed genocide.
Right. He killed all of the Jedi and the younglings, which, like, whoa.
He murdered children.
Twice, because he also did it to the Tusken Raiders. And then Alderaan, which I know that was Tarkin's order, but technically Vader was the higher commander.
Yeah, he helped.
In that scenario.
He was involved.
Like, there have been several moments in Darth Vader's story where it's like, oh no, this is like, you will not be accepted back into your old circles.
No. Too many war crimes.
Yeah.
Too many crimes against not really humanity for Star Wars, but, you
Everyone.
know.
The world.
Yeah.
Plural.
Crimes against the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's true with, like, Kylo Ren, too. I mean.
Kylo Ren is more... Because we know that something happened at the Jedi Temple.
Right.
But both accounts seem inaccurate.
Yeah.
So we don't really know what happened.
But he had also been hunting down these resistance people and killing them and torturing them, and he killed Han Solo.
Yes.
I think that him killing Han Solo was the moment where he went past the point of being able to be redeemed without, like, before that, if he had turned and gone back with Han Solo and not killed him and, like, went back to his mom, it could have ended out. I mean, there still would have been some contention there, but I think it could have ended up okay.
I kind of disagree with you, though, because in The Rise of Skywalker, he has, like, his redemption happens when he has a vision of Han Solo.
No, yeah.
And, like, Han Solo forgives him.
Yeah.
So, like, if Han Solo's willing to forgive him, I was willing to forgive him. And when he shows up as Ben Solo to help Rey in the end, I'm like, she was right. Like, she didn't want Kylo Ren, she wanted Ben.
Right.
And we all just wanted Ben the whole time.
I think, well...
So...
One, I think Han Solo forgiving him, I mean, it's his dad.
I know, but...
I think that, you know, but like you said, none of the Resistance people, I think, would have been cool with it.
Yeah.
But
he and Rey I really just am team Reylo and just wanted them to go live on Tatooine on a moisture farm.
Sure.
Yeah. And live out their days.
Yeah.
Let the Skywalker and Solo lines die, but just
be chill.
Happy together.
Yeah.
In the quiet.
But I think there does come a point with the bad guy characters with redemption arcs where they go past the point of being able to rehabilitate and be part of
okay.
Be part of the good guy squad. Like Zuko in Avatar left before that moment, and he actually, like, incorporated into Team Avatar and like helped train the Avatar to take his dad out. You know, now if Zuko had been the one personally responsible for, like, slaughtering all of the air nomads, I don't think that would have been possible. You know, with Aang.
I don't know, though, because Aang did forgive a lot of... Aang had way more inner peace than most
fine,
people
then let's go Katara. If Zuko had killed Katara's mom... Oh, no,
Katara would never have forgiven him.
Yeah, no. If Hugh had been the one to do that,
then
there would have been no... You know,
right.
There's those moments where they cross a line, and then it's like, you can be redeemed, but you're never going to be with the good guys. You're basically going to...
You'll be exiled.
You're going to basically go kamikaze trying to take out the bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is what Darth Vader did.
Right.
So, anyway, tangent.
Yeah, but I think a good one.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? We kind of talked about Han Solo. I have Mufasa.
Oh!
On my list. Because I
One
wanted
of the saddest animated deaths I've ever seen.
I know, so true.
Oh!
I know.
And then Simba trying to wake him up.
I know.
Oh.
My heart. Oh. But that's a character death that you experience as a very young person.
I was too young, though. I was too young for it to really process.
Sure.
Later in life, when I rewatched it, it was more heartbreaking. I was a little young for that.
I suppose.
But
I also remember watching, like, Pocahontas, and when Kocoum dies, like, being really upset about that, even as a young person. Mostly because I felt bad for Thomas, because I felt like he had been manipulated into creating this, like, not creating, into committing this horrendous act. And, and then Pocahontas being so upset about it, like, that whole thing, I was just like, oh,
Yeah.
I feel icky. I feel so upset about what just happened, because it was totally preventable by communication. Even as a small child, I was like, if they would have just talked to each other, like if Pocahontas was just told Kocoum what was going on, this might have been prevented.
Yeah.
Also, why would you pick John Smith over Kocoum? But that's a totally different story.
Kocoum was a specimen.
It's a true story.
He, like, that dude looked like he could have probably taken out all of the settlers had he chosen to.
Then you got John Smith, who smells like stank from being on a boat.
Yeah, he was on a boat for months. No shower.
Greasy hair. Stank.
Yeah. And then Kocoum walks in all shirtless with, like, body paint.
Yeah.
You choose John Smith? What's wrong with you?
Right.
Everyone knows that's the wrong choice.
Which also, that didn't happen.
Yeah. No.
In IRL. Not how that went down at all. But,
but anyway.
A whole different topic. But yeah, I just wanted to bring up that there are character deaths in children's movies that are, like, every Pixar movie almost has something, like Finding Nemo, and
there's either, like, a character death or someone coping with a death that we didn't see happen. Like in Onward, it was their dad, which that movie's really tough.
Oh my gosh, it's so hard to watch.
In Finding Nemo, it's their mom.
It's so good. Onward is good. If you haven't seen it, you should see it, but it is emotionally very challenging.
Like, right up our alley because it's all fantasy based, and they, like, make so many D&D references and, like, fantasy references, so we both, like, love the world of it. But oh man, that, like, it's a really good story, but it's hard.
If you're already grieving, I would hold off.
That was a tough year to watch that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was some stuff in real life that made that tough to watch. But anyway, yeah. And, like, Up with, oh, man, feel bad, I don't remember the main character's name, but the wife,
Carl?
His wife died in, like, the very beginning. And that the first 10 minutes of Up is, like, the most emotional roller coaster I've ever had in a movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, Pixar is notorious for breaking your heart.
Yeah. Disney too.
With character deaths. Except for, like, Incredibles. There's not...
And Monsters, Inc.
Yeah, there's some that are more...
safe.
Like, they still cover important topics, but not...
Death.
Yeah. Or, like, coping with that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, Pixar has some good stuff. Pixar is kind of like a good example of how to do it right, I think.
Yeah, I also think a lot of Disney movies have, if you don't see it on screen, it's kind of the same thing. Like, Cinderella. She's stuck with the evil stepmother because her father died after her mother died.
Unless you're watching Ever After and you have to watch the dad have a heart attack at the end of the lane.
I love that movie, but it makes me so sad.
Yeah. That's rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a tough time.
Yes. That's a great movie.
Ever After might be one of my favorite Cinderella.
Oh.
If not my favorite Cinderella adaptation. I think it's probably the top one for me.
Totally agree. And Sleeping Beauty, I guess, doesn't have, like, I guess she kind of is the character death, but she doesn't actually die. Snow White, she dies.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of other Disney movies. Frozen, the parents are both dead.
True.
Tarzan, the parents die in a shipwreck.
Yeah.
Lots of parent death.
Yeah.
Which that's kind of its own topic.
Yeah. When the mentor figure dies is one thing, but the thing is, usually the mentor figure
Is not the parent.
No, but took on a parental role.
Mm-hmm.
And then they die, and then the main character has to deal with, like, kind of a parent death all over again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it's usually because the parents are already gone.
Yeah. So then that ends up having to be, like, a catalyst for them dealing or coping with the death of their parents. Because, like... Or like Luke Skywalker's Uncle Owen, Aunt Beru.
Oh, yeah.
They get toasted by stormtroopers.
Yeah.
And then Ben dies. And it's like, yeah. You know what I want? I want to read a story about a main character that has a healthy, happy relationship with their parents who are both alive. Can you name one? Can you name one that's like that?
Well, so the Legend of Korra, both of her parents are alive.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Does she have a good relationship with them?
There's one, like, arc where it's rocky, but on the whole, yes.
Okay. Well, that's cool. I'll have to watch Legend of Korra.
You should, because it is honestly quite good.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any others.
Because I feel like that is a trope where the main
Yes.
character is an orphan.
That very common trope,
Yeah.
actually.
And I would like to read or watch or participate in a story where that is. Even Ghost of Tsushima that I just finished. Jin Sakai, the main character, is an orphan.
Do both parents have to be alive? Or can it just be one parent?
I feel like if they have one parent that's alive and it's a healthy relationship, I would take it.
Okay, so Inkheart,
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
the dad is alive, and they
like
have a
Inkheart.
healthy relationship.
Yeah.
That is all I'm looking at my shelf, and I'm like, well, no parents.
I feel like
the
the reason why there's so many stories where the parents are dead is because in real life,
your parents would never let you get into these shenanigans.
yeah, it's like, oh, you want to go slay a dragon? No. Go milk the cow, or what?
Truth. Yeah. So like the Walk on Earth a Stranger, she has a good relationship with her parents, and they die like within the first chapter.
Of course they do.
Yeah.
Well, like Wheel of Time. Well, I won't. No, I'm not going to go there because that Amazon series is going to come out soon.
Oh, is it?
So I don't want to spoil anything about Wheel of Time.
I feel like if it happens in the first chapter, it's not really spoiling. Sorry. For Walk on Earth a Stranger, potential readers. You should read it.
Yeah.
Honestly. But I'm not revealing who else.
Sure.
Except for, I kind of mentioned Teresa. She wasn't a main character.
I think
She was kind of a side character.
in Wheel of Time, though, the main cast gets kind of catapulted onto the adventure, and some of them only have one parent, or maybe even none, but enough of them do have both their parents. But the reason they have to leave is because they've been like marked by the enemy, and the enemy is hunting them, so they have to go off with the seasoned warrior and the wizard character to like protect themselves and like go on the run, basically. So I guess that's a way that you could do it, because you like their family definitely was not okay with it, but also didn't want them to die.
Sure.
So I guess that was a good way of handling that, with still keeping all of their families alive.
Yeah.
So
I also don't kill off my parents in my books very often
there you go.
in what I'm writing.
Like, it might happen at some point. But
Right. Like there's like one specifically that obviously dies, but
it's not like orphan status.
No.
Like, they still have someone to come home to.
Yes.
It's not like Luke
Yes.
Skywalker.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah, Luke gets a lot of crap for being such a whiny character, I feel like. But then when you actually pay attention to everything his character went through, you're like, oh, well, okay. He had some justification in being a little whiny.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because, like, he went home and his aunt and uncle were brutally murdered.
all of the
And
examples.
then he watched Obi-Wan or Ben Kenobi die in front of him. And then found out that his father...
is Hitler.
Yeah.
Is Space Hitler.
Yes.
And
then
no.
he's like, oh, I guess I'm supposed to redeem him. Ugh.
And then
What a chore.
in Return of the Jedi, he turns into this, like, he starts wearing all black, and
Right.
he's, like, super dramatic and moody.
Which, fair.
Yeah, but it's like Return of the Jedi is like Luke's emo phase.
Yes.
But then
Yes.
All the instances I can think of where he's just a whiny brat are from before his aunt and uncle get killed. It's like,
Okay, yes.
Uncle Owen, what about that one? I was going to go to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters. Like
Right.
he's just super whiny and just hates everything. And just it's like he's an angsty teen, you know, where everything his parents say, or not his parents, everything his guardians say is stupid. Which everyone goes through that phase.
Yes. Very relatable. Annoying to watch as an older person.
Yeah.
Relatable when you're a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when you get older, then you start relating with the parental figures.
That are like, geez Louise, kid, just do what you need to do.
It's like in Little Mermaid, all of a sudden King Triton makes a lot of sense, and Ariel's insane.
I recently rewatched The Little Mermaid, and yes, that is very true.
Girl, you caught half a glimpse of that human dude, and you decided that he's the love of your life. I think you need therapy. I think you've got some kind of issues going on here.
Yes. Yes.
Luke needed therapy.
Yes.
For sure. Luke Skywalker needed therapy real bad.
100%.
So did his dad. You know, there's a lot of problems that could have been solved in some of these movies if they had gone to therapy, which here's a plug for a YouTube channel called Cinema Therapy that is very interesting, where it's a licensed therapist with a filmmaker that sit down and watch movies and talk about, you know, some of the mentality behind characters and why they're probably feeling the way they feel, and what the therapist is kind of like the therapist talking about what he would do if this person was in therapy with him. It's like, this is, it's very interesting. Cinema Therapy.
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. They have, the ones that they're probably the most famous for is they watched Twilight. Like all of the red flags with Edward and how it's like totally an abusive relationship. And it's hilarious. Definitely go watch that. So, sorry, that's not even like on topic with character death, but Cinema Therapy. Go check them out on YouTube.
Yeah, that's good.
So.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's all I had. So
cool.
That's a good place
Convenient.
to wrap it up, I think. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, interesting conversation. I'm sure we could keep talking if we wanted to, but we're at about that time, so
yeah.
Not sure what I'm going to pick to talk about next time, but I'll figure it out.
I almost gave Joseph my character death topic last week, and then was like, wait, no.
Yeah.
I came up with this.
Exactly.
I'm keeping this one.
So it's my turn next time. So we'll see what we talk about next time.
Yeah.
But until then, go read something cool. Go watch something cool.
And we'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.